Hey everyone, Miss MC here. This is lap guide for East Outer Loop with the McLaren F1 GTR. Let's get this started. For this lap guide, we're using the McLaren F1 GTR since this car has crazy good top speed and it can also navigate through the twistier parts of the track. So let's go ahead and fast forward through all of this. Bring yourself towards the left side of the track, and your first braking point is just before you reach the 100-meter board. Brake hard for a short while, slowly ease off of the brakes and get really close to the wall and slowly accelerate. Then turn in before you reach this sign that is on the left. Just lift off of throttle, use a tiny bit of braking if necessary, go up to 4th gear, and just as you hit the apex, you want to slowly accelerate. Yeah, you're going to be getting really close to the walls to try to maximize your time. Take this left turn flat out, get as close as to the wall as you can, and bring yourself to the right. Once again, get really close to the wall and brake in between the 100 and the 50-meter board. You want to use a very quick burst of braking, start to turn in, and get on the throttle as soon as you can. You want to try to navigate through the chicane in as straight of a line as possible to try to get a fast exit and shave off some time. Now turn in as you go under the bridge, and all you want to do is just do a little lift off of the throttle. Bring yourself to the right, do the same thing before you reach the 50-meter board, but lift off of the throttle for a bit longer. Get really close to the barriers, bring yourself to the left, and brake before you reach the 50-meter board. Brake hard for a short moment, slowly ease off of the brakes, and as soon as you make this right turn, start to turn left and do a little bit of throttle control. Bring yourself to the left, and there are multiple braking points that you can use for your final braking zone. The first one is after you pass the 150-meter board, as you go under the green sign, or just before you reach the shadow. So this is where I start to brake hard for a short while, and you want to try to nail both of these apexes, especially the final one. Get the car straightened up and get on the throttle as soon as you can. But that is pretty much it for the lap guide. We'll finish up this lap and take a look at the strategies. For this race, we are doing 10 laps at Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop with the Group 3 cars. So for this race, we are given the racing soft and medium tires, and both tires are required for this race, so make sure that you use both tire compounds so you don't get a 1-minute penalty that gets applied after the race ends. Fuel is a ×2, so fuel is not a problem at all, but the tire wear is a ×9, so tire wear is a problem to an extent because you have a track where there isn't that many technical parts, so it's not going to be straining out the tires too much. So because of that, it's going to be a little easier to make your tires last at least 5 laps. So with the racing medium tires, or racing soft tires I mean, you can easily make them last 7 laps if you do a little bit of tire saving. So, East Outer Loop. There's a super long main straight, which means that slipstream is going to be a major thing here, and Punch City is going to be another big thing as well. So, whenever you're under someone's slipstream, you want to make sure that you brake a little earlier than usual, because when you're under someone's slipstream, you're of course accelerating faster, you're going at higher speeds, which means that your braking distance is going to increase, so you do need to brake a little earlier than usual, because if you don't, you're probably going to end up punting off the car in front of you, and they're going to be very upset about that. And the cars that you'll probably see being used the most are going to be the McLaren F1 GTR, the Ford GT, and the Peugeot VGT. Of those three, the McLaren F1 seems to be the best car to go with, because without the slipstream, this car can kind of stand on its own. But when it comes to the slipstream, especially in the race, the McLaren F1, it becomes a monster. So you're going to be flying down the main straight, going at crazy speeds when you go through the main straight under someone's slipstream. Speaking of slipstream, so slipstream is going to be ultra important for a race like this because this track, it has a lot of high-speed sections. There's not that many technical parts. So you're going to want to take advantage of someone's slipstream, be within 3/4 of a second behind someone, and do a bit of bump drafting when it's safe to do so. So just like right now, you're seeing me bump draft second place because we're trying to catch up to first place. And because first place isn't getting the slipstream from anyone, we're going to easily get back into his slipstream. So we were able to work together for a bit and catch up to first place. And this slipstream is super important. You want to stay under it at all times because the moment that you fall out of the 3/4 of a second range, you're going to start to get left behind, especially on the main straight. So for example, right now, second and first place are going to start bump drafting each other soon, and I'm not within the 3/4 of a second range, so they're going to be working together and they're going to end up leaving me behind. And if they're able to keep working together like this throughout the entire race, then it's eventually going to be impossible for me to catch up to them unless if they start to fight it out. And eventually they do start to fight it out a bit, which means that I will be able to catch up to them. And let's go ahead and talk about the tires. So you're given the racing soft and medium tires. The racing soft tires can last you at least 5 laps, but because of how few technical parts this track has, it is possible to make your racing soft tires last 7 laps. So you will need to do a little bit of tire saving, so drive smoothly of course, and you can be just a tad bit easier on the brakes, especially for the hard braking zones, and you can also adjust the brake balance. So for example, with the McLaren F1 GTR, I had the brake balance at -2, so 2 to the front. That way I can try to save a bit of tire life on the rear tires because naturally for the McLaren F1 GTR, the rear tires wear out faster than the front tires. And I'm also starting on the racing medium tires this time because I want to use up a bit of fuel so that when I switch on over to the racing soft tires, the car is a bit lighter, which means that it'll be able to go even faster, and I'll be able to tire save a bit more because the car is lighter because it uses up a bit of fuel. Also, the pit stop, it is to the left, not too long after the tunnel starts, and you're not going to be losing too much time, but you're still going to want to do a one stop. So your pit loss is going to be a little over 14 seconds, and that is because of the super long main straight, so it is going to take you a while to get up to speed with everyone else until you reach the first braking point of your new lap. And you also want to consider when to pit because you don't want to pit out into traffic. If you pit out into traffic and those in the traffic haven't pitted yet, their tires are going to be a bit more worn out, which means that you have to fight your way through them. So you're going to end up losing a bit of time and you're going to end up shredding your tires a bit. So for example, right now I pitted at the end of lap 4 and I was able to pretty much pit out into clean air. I'm eventually going to have to deal with one car, but that's only one car, so I'm not going to be losing too much time. I just need to find out when to try to get a quick, clean overtake done. And if you're going to overtake someone, yeah, try to make it fast and clean, because if you start to get into long battles with anyone or multiple cars, then you're going to be losing a lot of time. You pretty much want to be working with other cars to keep up with the front of the pack and to get away from others behind you. If you start to fight with others, then those in the front, they're going to get away from you, and those behind you, they're going to catch up to you. So what would normally have been a 2-car battle is now suddenly a 6-car battle. So that is something that you do want to be careful of. And also the tire that you want to start on, It's going to partially depend on where you're starting. So if you're starting towards the front, you can start on the racing soft or medium tires. And I explained why you could start on the racing medium tires earlier on. But if you're starting towards the middle or the back, then you definitely want to start on the racing medium tires. If you're starting towards the front, it is possible to start on the racing soft tires and try to get away from everyone. You just need to nail down your turns, because with the small time difference between a racing soft lap and a racing medium lap, you want to perfect your turns, perfect everything, so that you can eventually break away from those on the racing medium tires. And also in this clip, this was actually me doing a racing soft stint first, and I was able to make the racing soft tires last 7 laps. So in this race, I'm going 7 laps on the soft tires and 3 laps on the medium tires. And yeah, there isn't too much to say about this race. Work together if possible. Try to make your battle short and sweet. Use both the racing soft and medium tires. And let's go ahead and talk about places to overtake and the penalty serving zones. So the main straight is quite obviously the best place to get the overtake done, but you want to try to get the overtake done right around here, because if you get the overtake done in the middle of the main straight, then you're going to set yourself up to get overtaken back, because there's still a bunch of straightaway sections available. So that's going to enable whoever you just overtook to slingshot past you before turn 1. This spot, it's pretty much going to be a single file line. If you start to battle out through here, you're going to lose a lot of time, especially if you try to go too wide through chicane. Please don't go too wide through chicane, because that's going to result in death. Then these couple of turns, you want to try to stay in a single file line, unless if a car ends up hitting a wall, then you can try to get past them. You're still pretty much going to stay in a single file line for a while more, until you reach this mini back straight, in which this part is your next place to get the overtake done. And the penalty serving zone is hanging out right here. This is the only penalty serving zone at East Outer Loop. And yeah, there isn't that many places to get a good overtake done, so you want to be very strategic and determine when is a good time to go for an overtake, and hopefully not lose any time, or when to work with someone who is in front of you. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this guide, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off and go to bed. So this is MuslimCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.